8:08 at KNEB, and with a special guest in studio, here is Scott Miller.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Good morning, everyone. And as Dennis said, a special guest in studio this morning, 3rd District Congressman Adrian Smith. Welcome back to KNEB this morning.
Good morning. Great to be here.
Making a busy swing as I see through the area. You've got a lot of things going on right now.
Right. We're beginning the agriculture tour here today, starting in Alliance, then York, then Auburn, all cities in the 3rd District. But when we're not in session in Washington, I'm generally in Nebraska, somewhere in Nebraska. The more I get to be home in Scottsbluff-Gearing, the better. But certainly it's great to be here.
Now, what kind of information are people going to learn if they take part in the agriculture tour, the one that's taking place in Alliance a little bit later today?
Well, I'm anxious to hear from folks what's on their minds. I think it's more of listening on my part, but I'm happy to share updates. I think we've actually seen some good news in the trade sector these days. We still have the challenge of China and the tariffs there and the retaliation that they have engaged in. But there's great news with Japan. I think the USMCA, United States, Mexico, Canada agreement to replace NAFTA, that has the votes, I believe. We just need to have it scheduled in Washington when we return. And I think we can get that done.
So what are the odds of getting that scheduled sooner rather than later for a vote?
Well, I kind of think that there are a lot of reasons to get it done sooner rather than later for both sides. I'm speculating when I would say that I don't think the presidential candidates on the Democratic side are, anxious to keep talking about this particular issue, because actually the USMCA contains some of the components of it are issues that the Democrats have been wanting literally for decades. Mm-hmm. And so this is a bipartisan agreement. I think a lot of my Democratic colleagues know this, and that's why I think so many of them are supporting this. Quite honestly, there are a couple little components that give me a little bit of heartburn, but they're not deal breakers. And so that's why I think moving forward on this will send a message to the world, and especially China, that we are serious about leveling the playing field on trade. And we see improvements, for example, from Canada. Mm-hmm. And even though we've been at we've had a strong trading partnership with Canada over the years, this improves it. And actually, I think there's even room for more improvement. But again, this is a good starting point. Let's get this done and move forward. Japan, another tremendous opportunity, huge economy.
Definitely.
One example is they have a 40+% tariff on a lot of U.S. beef. And so an agreement with them would likely take that to zero or close to zero. That means U.S. beef becomes more affordable to consumers in Japan. There are a lot of consumers there. They've got the income to spend. That would be good for our producers here at home.
Definitely would be a good thing for Nebraska beef producers. And of course, and it sounds like coming out of the G7 summit, there's possibly some movement with regard to China when it comes to perhaps finding a path through the tariffs and through this trade conflict.
Right. And China's in a very delicate situation. And, their centrally controlled economy is very delicate. And the fact that they are having their own people pay more for their food cannot last forever. And it's painful here. I certainly understand that. I'm not a fan of tariffs. And, the president ran on this, and he is seeing this through. And the fact is we need to, I think, strengthen our hand, and we can do that with passing USMCA. That would really, really strengthen our position. I know that to Europe, they kind of dabble in wanting a trade agreement. I'm not sure they're serious just yet. But when you look at USMCA and Japan, we've got great opportunities.
Take a little look at some things a little more local. It sure sounds like water is going to be flowing, hopefully relatively soon, in the Fort Laramie Canal. Right. And that situation improving. Of course, the approval of the crop insurance of this being a valid event or a qualifying event for crop insurance purposes, a big issue for local producers.
Right, exactly. This is a very important topic we've been working on, the Nebraska delegation and Wyoming delegation. Not only the crop insurance component, as important as that has been, moving forward, I'm hoping we can get more assistance because, this is a Bureau of Reclamation asset. These tunnels are, And so I want to make a case for, the fact that these expenses being incurred are so steep that it's a huge burden on the farmers themselves. And it's already a tough time. We don't want to see it even tougher.
And of course, the crop insurance covering primarily input costs for those that are impacted by this. So there's still going to be an economic ripple in the area. Is there anything that might be available on the federal end of things as far as helping out the communities, once that economic loss starts to be realized?
Yeah, we are working on this. I mean, there are several different dynamics involved here, but I'm very what do I want to say? I am certain that we will work together, the Nebraska delegation, that we will work together to do all we can and to bring assistance to the community. Crop insurance is so important. We've got that lined up now, but moving forward, we'll look for, helping rebuild and the economic consequences of that can be very important as well.
And of course, as we reported this morning, you've been making the rounds, handing out your Young Entrepreneur Awards, the inaugural ones, and of course, Papa Moon Vineyard and Winery, one of the inaugural winners. And what went into first the development of that award and the selection criteria that you and your staff looked at? Sure.
Well, in our effort to focus on so many positive things that are happening around Nebraska, and especially the 3rd District, we wanted to recognize some young entrepreneurs who are engaged in the economy and in their communities in a way that we can show and recognize folks, these entrepreneurs, so other folks can realize what is happening as well. And so that's it's great to see these positive things happening.
Now, going forward, switching gears to the 2020 census, you look at the district map for Nebraska, and your district is, end to end, east to west, with spot for Omaha, and then right around, southeast-ish around Lincoln for another of the districts. Are there any concerns census-wise that we could possibly lose one of our representative seats going forward?
Well, I understand we're in a pretty strong position right now. Certainly the census is obviously not complete. 75 counties in the 3rd District is a lot. I would hope we can keep the district as compact as possible. So that'll be up to the legislature. The legislature will need to draw those boundaries along with the governor approving that. So time will tell. And meanwhile, I just meet with folks across the 75 counties of the 3rd District as often as I can. And we're going to do a lot of meetings just this week.
And heading back to Washington when?
When we reconvene on the 9th, we'll get there a couple days before that. But we'll have a lot to do this fall, especially hopefully the USMCA, hopefully right away.
Any other issues that might be on the front burner once you do get back there?
Oh, I think that a lot of things. I mean, I'll be working on this Bureau of Reclamation irrigation issue with the rest of the delegation of Nebraska and Wyoming and various agencies, USDA and Department of Interior, which is Bureau of Reclamation. So a lot of things there. But moving forward, we've got savings. We want to focus on opportunities for the American people to save more for their financial future. And that's a big deal. There's kind of this mandatory or a paid leave idea that has floated that is problematic. I think we want to be very careful when we look at that. We need to shore up Social Security, Medicare, other things that I know the American people want us to do.
And also another budgetary deadline coming up down the road, as they seem to happen almost every year these days. Congressman, we appreciate you stopping by the studio.
Thank you.
You're always welcome anytime you want to stop by.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian.